Your destined partner wants to marry you, after hearing this from two people. Don't scroll, stay right here for a moment, because this isn't one of those dramatic promises meant to pull you in and leave you empty. This is quiet, steady, and heavy in the way truth always feels when it's close to your life. There's a reason your chest felt a little tight when you read that title, a reason your mind paused before deciding whether to keep going. Something real has been moving behind the scenes, not loudly, not impulsively, but deliberately. This message isn't here to rush you or excite you unnecessarily. It's here to ground you in what's been forming without your involvement, without your pressure, without you needing to convince anyone of anything. Listen to this carefully, because what shifted in your soulmate didn't come from fantasy or romantic daydreaming. It came from reality. Two people, separate moments, separate conversations, said something that echoed too clearly to ignore. They didn't know they were confirming anything. They weren't trying to influence a decision. They simply spoke from their own perspective, and those words landed like a mirror. Sometimes the universe uses other voices to say what the soul has been whispering quietly for a long time. Hearing it once can be brushed aside. Hearing it twice from different people becomes impossible to dismiss. Don't skip this part, because it's important to understand what kind of realization this was. It wasn't panic. It wasn't fear of losing you. It wasn't jealousy. It was clarity. The kind of clarity that doesn't rush or shake you, but settles into you and changes how you see the future. After those conversations, your soulmate didn't feel dramatic or overwhelmed. They felt still, thoughtful, reflective. And in that stillness, they realized something they hadn't allowed themselves to say out loud before. When they imagine a life that feels stable, committed, and real, your presence is already there. Stay right here, because this part is deeply human. Your soulmate didn't suddenly decide they wanted marriage because someone told them to. They realized marriage because they recognized permanence. There's a difference. Some connections feel exciting but unstable. Some feel familiar but limited. This one feels grounded. Safe. The kind of connection that doesn't drain you but steadies you. Hearing two people describe that kind of partnership, without knowing the full depth of what you share, made it impossible for them to keep pretending this was just another chapter instead of a foundation. Pause for a moment and breathe, because the universe has been working on you too, even if you weren't aware of it. You've been growing in ways that don't always show on the surface. You've learned patience without resignation. You've learned self-respect without closing your heart. You've learned how to stay open without chasing. That growth matters here. The timing of this realization didn't happen years ago because neither of you were ready then. It's happening now because both of you can hold the weight of it. Listen to this gently, because signs have been surrounding you for a reason. You may have noticed repeating numbers showing up when your thoughts drift toward commitment or long-term partnership. 111 when you think about union. 222 when you question whether timing is on your side. 444 when you remind yourself to stay grounded and protected. These aren't messages telling you to act. They're reminders that something is aligning without force. Alignment doesn't shout. It confirms. Don't scroll away now, because your soulmate didn't run to anyone to talk about this immediately. They sat with it. They questioned it. They tested it against reality. That's important. Impulsive decisions fade. Thoughtful ones last. They ask themselves hard questions about responsibility, consistency, and whether they could show up every day, not just when things feel good. And the answer didn't come with fireworks. It came with calm. Calm is how you know something is real. Stay present with this truth, because marriage entered their mind not as a fantasy, but as a future that felt natural. Not rushed. Not forced. Just right. When someone reaches that place, it's because they've stopped seeing love as an emotion and started seeing it as a choice. A daily choice. A steady choice. A choice that requires maturity. That shift doesn't happen overnight. It happens when growth catches up with feeling. Hear this clearly, because this isn't about pressure being placed on you. You're not being asked to prepare for a proposal tomorrow or change your life overnight. This message is about awareness. About understanding why the energy around this connection feels different lately. Why things feel more serious without being heavy. Why there's a sense of inevitability without anxiety. That's what alignment feels like when it's healthy. Don't skip this insight, because your soulmate's realization didn't come with certainty about timing, but with certainty about direction. They know where their heart is pointing now. They know what kind of future they want to build. And they know that whatever steps come next need to be taken consciously, not emotionally. That's why things may feel slower instead of faster. When something matters, you don't rush it. You protect it. Stay right here, because you may be feeling something similar inside yourself. A quiet readiness. Not impatience. Not longing. Just a sense that you're no longer questioning your place in this connection. That feeling isn't coming from ego. It's coming from self-trust. You're not trying to secure anything anymore. You're allowing things to reveal themselves. That's a powerful place to be. Listen to this part carefully, because the universe doesn't send confirmation through people unless it's guiding someone toward truth. Two voices. Same message. Different moments. That's not coincidence. That's alignment nudging someone to stop doubting what they already know. Your soulmate didn't suddenly change. They finally stopped resisting what's been true for a long time. Don't scroll past this moment, because this realization isn't the ending. It's the foundation. Whatever comes next will come from intention, not impulse. From respect, not fear. From clarity, not confusion. Whether that means a conversation, a plan, or simply more conscious presence, it will unfold in a way that doesn't disrupt your peace. Stay right here until the end of this message, because this part is important. You are not being asked to wait anxiously or put your life on hold. You're being asked to stay grounded, authentic, and patient with the process. When something is meant to last, it doesn't arrive in chaos. It arrives in calm recognition. And that's exactly the energy surrounding this connection now. Stay right here and don't rush past this moment, because what's unfolding now isn't about a sudden decision or an announcement, it's about the after effect of realization, and this part is where truth settles in slowly. After your soulmate heard those words from two different people, they didn't feel excitement first. They felt quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you sit longer with your thoughts, that changes how you move through the day, that doesn't let you distract yourself easily. That's how you know something real has landed. When truth arrives, it doesn't always make noise. Sometimes it makes you still. Listen to this carefully, because the first thing your soulmate questioned wasn't love, it was responsibility. They asked themselves what it would mean to choose one person not emotionally, but practically. What it would mean to show up on ordinary days, not just meaningful ones. What it would mean to commit to consistency, patience, and growth, not just affection. Those questions didn't come from fear of you. They came from respect for the depth of the connection. Marriage doesn't enter the heart lightly when someone understands its weight. It enters slowly, thoughtfully, and with humility. Don't scroll past this part, because this is deeply human. After hearing the same message twice, your soulmate began reviewing moments they hadn't thought about in a long time. Small moments. How you responded under pressure. How you didn't make things harder when life already was. How your presence felt grounding instead of draining. These weren't dramatic memories. They were subtle, but they mattered. Real commitment doesn't form around grand gestures. It forms around how someone makes you feel when nothing special is happening. Stay present with this, hear this gently, because your soulmate isn't fantasizing about marriage in a romantic way. They're imagining reality. Shared responsibilities. Conflict handled with respect. Support during difficult seasons. Quiet loyalty when excitement fades. That's how you know this isn't a surface-level thought. Fantasy focuses on how love feels. Reality focuses on how love functions. And you keep appearing in those thoughts because you've already shown you can function with integrity. Don't skip this insight, because the universe is also working on you at the same time. You may feel more grounded lately, less reactive to uncertainty, less eager to define outcomes. That's not detachment. That's emotional maturity. You're learning to trust your own stability instead of borrowing certainty from someone else's readiness. That growth matters here. Without it, even sincere intentions can feel overwhelming. With it, patience feels natural. Stay right here, because signs have been appearing quietly around you. You might notice 222 when you question timing, reminding you that balance is forming. You might see 444 when you ground yourself in your values, reminding you that you're protected. These signs aren't asking you to act or wait. They're reassuring you that you're safe while things align. Safety is essential when something serious is forming. Listen closely now, because your soulmate is also becoming aware of time in a different way. Not in a rushed sense, but in a conscious one. They're realizing that clarity creates responsibility. Once you know what you want, you can't pretend you don't. Staying silent forever stops feeling neutral. It starts feeling dishonest. That awareness doesn't force action immediately, but it removes denial. And denial is often the biggest barrier to commitment. Don't scroll away, because your boundaries are quietly supporting this process. You're not demanding answers. You're not testing their intentions. You're staying present without overextending. That balance creates emotional safety. It tells your soulmate that if they step forward, they won't be met with pressure or chaos. They'll be met with honesty. That matters more than you realize. Stay with this message, because anticipation may still surface from time to time. Thoughts like, what if I'm misreading this, or what if it doesn't happen, are natural. When they arise, notice how your body feels. Calm means intuition. Tightness means fear. You don't need to fight either. Just don't let fear write the story. The truth feels steady, not urgent. Hear this truth clearly, because it reframes everything. Your soulmate didn't start thinking about marriage because someone convinced them. They started thinking about it because resistance fell away. The two voices they heard didn't create the truth. They confirmed it. And confirmation has a way of quieting doubt without creating pressure. Don't skip this realization, because it protects your peace. You're not being asked to prepare for a proposal or change your life overnight. You're being asked to remain grounded while something real takes shape. Real things don't rush. They mature. They test stability. They settle before they speak. Stay right here until the end of this message, because this phase isn't about movement yet. It's about integration. Your soulmate is integrating what they feel with who they are becoming. You are integrating trust with self-respect. And when integration completes, action follows naturally, without force, without fear, and without disrupting the calm you've worked so hard to build. Stay right here for a moment and don't rush your breath, because this part isn't about decisions being announced, it's about energy settling into certainty, and that process is always quieter than people expect. After your soulmate allowed the idea of marriage to exist without pushing it away, something changed in how they experience everyday life. Ordinary moments started feeling more meaningful. Time felt less like something to pass and more like something to honor. That's what happens when a person stops seeing the future as open-ended and starts seeing it as intentional. Nothing looks dramatic on the outside, but internally, priorities are shifting into place. Listen to this carefully, because the first noticeable change isn't what they say, it's what they stop entertaining. Your soulmate is no longer indulging thoughts that don't align with long-term stability. Conversations that once felt harmless now feel unnecessary. Distractions that once felt exciting now feel empty. That's not because they're limiting themselves, but because clarity naturally narrows focus. When someone realizes who they want to build a life with, everything else loses volume. And that shift didn't come from pressure. It came from truth settling in. Don't scroll past this part, because this is deeply human and rarely spoken about. Your soulmate is becoming more aware of their own emotional patterns. Where they used to avoid difficult conversations. Where they delayed commitment under the label of timing. Where they confused freedom with emotional distance. This awareness isn't making them anxious. It's making them honest. Honesty doesn't always feel comfortable, but it feels grounding. And grounding is what allows real commitment to form without resentment. Pause here and stay with this feeling, because you might notice a similar reflection happening inside you too. You're thinking less about outcomes and more about alignment. Less about proving love and more about protecting peace. You're noticing what feels natural to you now and what feels forced. That's growth. And growth changes the kind of love you're available for. You're no longer interested in potential alone. You're interested in consistency, respect, and shared values. That inner shift is happening quietly, but it matters. Hear this gently, because your soulmate is also realizing that marriage isn't about locking something down, it's about opening yourself up responsibly. It requires emotional availability, not just affection. It requires presence, not just intention. They're asking themselves whether they can offer that without losing themselves. That question doesn't come from fear. It comes from maturity. Immature love rushes. Mature love prepares. Don't skip this insight, because signs from the universe are still present, just more subtle now. You might see 333 when you're reflecting on growth, reminding you that expansion is happening internally. You might notice 444 when you feel grounded in your boundaries, reminding you that you're supported. These signs aren't about prediction. They're about reassurance. They're the universe saying you don't need to force clarity, it's forming naturally. Stay right here, because your soulmate is beginning to imagine the future in a very different way. Not as a series of milestones, but as a rhythm. Shared mornings. Mutual decision-making. Quiet support during stress. These aren't fantasies fueled by emotion. They're images shaped by realism. That's how you know this is serious. Fantasy is loud. Reality is calm. Listen closely now, because this phase involves emotional accountability. Your soulmate is recognizing where they need to grow to meet the vision they're forming. Growth isn't just something they want from you. It's something they're committing to themselves. That's important. Commitment built on self-growth lasts longer than commitment built on expectation. They're not asking whether you're enough. They're asking whether they are. Don't scroll away, because your boundaries are playing a powerful role without you doing anything extra. You're not pushing conversations. You're not chasing reassurance. You're not shrinking to keep the connection alive. You're living your life fully, and that fullness creates clarity instead of pressure. Pressure clouds judgment. Presence sharpens it. You're offering presence. Stay with this message, because anticipation may still arise at times. Thoughts like, when will this turn into words, or, will they act on this, may float through your mind. When they do, notice whether they feel calm or restless. Calm curiosity is intuition. Restless urgency is fear. You don't need to silence either, but you don't need to obey fear. The truth doesn't rush you. Hear this truth clearly, because it reframes the entire journey. This connection is no longer being carried by emotion alone. It's being supported by awareness, responsibility, and timing. That's why it feels steady instead of dramatic. Steady doesn't mean boring. It means sustainable. And sustainability is the foundation of any real marriage. Don't skip this realization, because it protects your heart. You are not waiting for someone to choose you. You are choosing alignment every day by honoring your values and your peace. That choice changes the quality of love that can meet you. Love that arrives now won't destabilize you. It will integrate into your life naturally. Stay right here until the end of this message, because this part is about preparation without pressure. Your soulmate is preparing themselves emotionally, mentally, and practically for a future they now see clearly. You are preparing yourself by staying grounded, authentic, and whole. When preparation meets preparation, action doesn't feel sudden. It feels right. Take one more breath before you move on, because something important is forming quietly. Not through promises. Not through urgency. But through honesty, growth, and alignment on both sides. And when this next step finally speaks out loud, it will carry weight, not because it was rushed, but because it was ready. Slow down for a moment and stay with these words, because what's unfolding now isn't about imagination or prediction, it's about real emotional weight settling into place, the kind that changes people quietly. When a thought like marriage stops feeling abstract and starts feeling personal, it doesn't rush the heart forward, it grounds it. Your soulmate is in that grounded space now. Not dreaming, not fantasizing, but standing face to face with the reality of what commitment actually means. And that reality is shaping them from the inside out. Listen closely to this, because something subtle has changed in how they look at the future. It's no longer a vague idea of someday or maybe. It's becoming structured, practical, tangible. They're starting to imagine life not in moments, but in continuity. Days stacked on days. Decisions that ripple forward. When someone reaches this mindset, it means they're no longer avoiding responsibility, they're accepting it. That acceptance didn't come from pressure. It came from clarity. Don't rush past this thought, because this is deeply human and rarely talked about. Your soulmate is realizing that love alone doesn't hold a marriage together, character does ***. They're thinking about patience, emotional regulation, honesty during conflict, and presence when life isn't exciting. These aren't romantic ideas, but they're the ones that matter most. And when they measure those qualities against the connection they have with you, something settles instead of resists. Stay right here with this feeling, because you may notice a similar shift inside yourself. You're no longer chasing certainty. You're no longer scanning for signs with urgency. You're living your life with a quiet sense of stability. That doesn't mean you're detached. It means you trust yourself enough not to force answers. That inner steadiness is essential. Without it, serious commitment feels threatening. With it, commitment feels natural. Hear this gently, because your soulmate is also noticing how you move through uncertainty. They see that you don't panic. That you don't manipulate situations to feel secure. That you don't collapse emotionally when things are undefined. That emotional maturity speaks louder than words. It tells them that a future with you wouldn't be chaotic or draining, it would be grounded. And that realization carries weight. Don't skip this moment, because the universe is reinforcing stability right now, not urgency. You might notice repeating numbers like 444 when you're choosing calm over reaction, or 222 when you're questioning timing. These aren't signals to act or wait. They're reminders that balance is being built beneath the surface. The universe doesn't rush foundations. It strengthens them quietly. Stay present here, because your soulmate is beginning to understand that silence can't last forever when truth is known. Silence stops feeling neutral once clarity arrives. It becomes something that needs to be addressed with intention. Not rushed, not forced, but honored. They're realizing that if they want to do this right, they can't approach it casually. They'll need to show up with honesty, consistency, and respect. Listen carefully now, because this stage is about alignment meeting reality. Your soulmate is asking whether their habits, priorities, and lifestyle can support the future they're envisioning. Marriage isn't just a feeling, it's a structure. It requires teamwork, communication, and shared responsibility. They're thinking about these things seriously, not because they doubt the connection, but because they respect it. Don't move past this too quickly, because your boundaries are doing important work without you saying a word. You're not pushing conversations. You're not testing intentions. You're not shrinking to maintain connection. You're existing in a balanced space where honesty is welcome but pressure isn't. That balance creates emotional safety. And emotional safety is what allows real commitment to form without fear. Stay with this message, because anticipation may still whisper questions into your mind. When will this become clear? Will they act on this? When those thoughts arise, notice how they feel in your body. Calm curiosity is intuition. Tight urgency is fear. You don't need to fight either. Just don't let fear drive. The truth doesn't rush, it stabilizes. Hear this clearly, because it reframes everything you're experiencing. This connection isn't moving forward because of outside influence alone. It's moving forward because internal readiness has replaced resistance. That's why the process feels slow but solid. Fast decisions can feel exciting. Solid ones feel safe. And safety is what marriage actually requires. Don't skip this realization, because it protects your peace. You are not waiting to be chosen. You are choosing yourself daily by honoring your values, your boundaries, and your emotional health. That choice doesn't block love, it invites the right form of it. Love that integrates into your life instead of disrupting it. Stay right here until the final word settles, because what's forming now isn't loud or dramatic. It's steady. Intentional. Built on awareness instead of impulse. When the next step eventually shows itself, through words, actions, or quiet certainty, it will feel natural, not shocking. Not overwhelming, but grounded. Because it wasn't rushed. It was respected. Take one last breath with this message, because the truth doesn't need to shout to be real. Sometimes it simply waits until both hearts are strong enough to carry it. Hold this moment gently and don't rush past it, because what's unfolding now isn't about anticipation anymore, it's about readiness taking shape in real life, and readiness has a very human weight to it. When someone reaches this stage, they stop wondering if something matters and start considering how to protect it. Your soulmate is standing there now. Not dreaming, not hesitating, but quietly measuring their actions against the future they're beginning to respect. This is the phase where love stops being emotional currency and becomes moral responsibility, and that shift changes people from the inside. Listen carefully to this, because something subtle has changed in how they experience you. You're no longer just someone they feel connected to emotionally. You've become someone they mentally include in decisions without realizing it. They think in terms of "we" even when they don't say it. They consider impact. They consider consequences. They consider whether their choices today would still make sense if shared with someone long-term. That kind of thinking doesn't come from fantasy. It comes from internal commitment forming quietly. Stay right here with this thought, because this stage often feels invisible to the outside world. There may be no big gestures, no announcements, no sudden shifts you can point to. But internally, your soulmate is becoming more disciplined with themselves. Less reactive. Less impulsive. More intentional. That's not them pulling away from you. That's them pulling themselves together. When a person realizes they may want to build a life with someone, they start cleaning up their inner world first. Hear this gently, because this part is deeply human and often misunderstood. Love doesn't always feel exciting when it matures. Sometimes it feels serious. Sometimes it feels grounding. Sometimes it feels like responsibility knocking softly instead of passion shouting. Your soulmate isn't losing interest. They're gaining clarity. They're realizing that what they feel for you isn't meant to stay light and undefined. It's meant to be carried carefully. Pause here and notice your own inner state, because you've been changing too. You're not chasing reassurance. You're not asking the universe to prove anything urgently. You're standing in your life with a quiet sense of self-trust. That self-trust matters more than you realize. Without it, even sincere commitment can feel suffocating. With it, commitment feels like partnership, not loss of freedom. Listen to this part closely, because your soulmate is observing how you handle stability. They see that you don't need emotional drama to feel alive. You don't provoke reactions to feel valued. You don't collapse when things are uncertain. That emotional regulation is rare. And it communicates something powerful, that life with you would feel calm, not chaotic. That realization carries more weight than attraction ever could. Don't skim past this insight, because the universe is still communicating, just in quieter tones now. You may notice repeating numbers like 444 when you feel centered in yourself, or 222 when you're reminded to trust balance instead of urgency. These aren't signs pushing you forward. They're reminders to stay rooted. Rooted people don't rush commitments. They allow them to mature naturally. Stay present here, because your soulmate is starting to feel that staying silent forever is no longer neutral. Once clarity exists, inaction begins to feel like avoidance. They don't want avoidance to be part of something this meaningful. That doesn't mean they'll rush into words tomorrow. It means they're internally preparing to speak and act with integrity instead of impulse. Integrity takes time to build. Listen carefully now, because this stage is about alignment turning into responsibility. Your soulmate is asking whether their lifestyle, habits, and emotional patterns can support the future they're imagining. Marriage isn't a feeling, it's a structure. It requires reliability, communication, and mutual respect. They're thinking about those things seriously, not because they doubt the connection, but because they respect it enough to prepare properly. Don't move too quickly past this, because your boundaries are still doing quiet, powerful work. You're not demanding clarity. You're not withdrawing in fear. You're staying emotionally available without being overexposed. That balance tells anyone watching that you value honesty but won't tolerate confusion. That kind of clarity makes real commitment feel safer, not more intimidating. Stay with this message, because thoughts about timing may still arise. Questions like, how long will this take? Or, what if nothing happens, are natural. When those thoughts come, notice how your body feels. Calm means intuition is present. Tightness means fear is speaking. You don't need to silence fear, you just don't need to let it lead. The truth doesn't rush you. It steadies you. Hear this truth clearly, because it reframes everything. You are not waiting to be chosen. You are choosing yourself consistently by honoring your peace, your values, and your emotional health. That choice doesn't push love away. It invites the right form of love closer. Love that integrates into your life instead of disrupting it. Don't skip this realization, because it protects your heart. Commitment formed in chaos doesn't last. Commitment formed in clarity does. What's developing now isn't loud or dramatic, but it's strong. It's being built on awareness, maturity, and respect. Those qualities don't shout. They endure. Stay right here until the final words settle, because this phase is about embodiment, not promises. Your soulmate is becoming the version of themselves that can hold a lifelong bond without resentment. You are becoming the version of yourself that doesn't lose peace while waiting for alignment. When embodiment meets embodiment, action doesn't feel forced. It feels inevitable in the healthiest way. Take one last breath with this message, because what's forming now is not rushed, not uncertain, and not fragile. It's steady. It's intentional. And when it eventually shows itself, through words, choices, or shared direction, it will feel calm, not overwhelming. Not shocking, but right. Because it was built slowly, honestly, and with deep respect on both sides. Stay with me and don't let your attention drift, because what's unfolding now isn't about hope or imagination anymore. It's about truth beginning to ask for expression, and that moment always arrives quietly. When someone reaches this stage internally, they don't feel rushed, but they do feel changed. Your soulmate is no longer carrying this realization as a private thought they can ignore. It's shaping how they wake up, how they plan, how they evaluate their own life. There's a seriousness settling in, not heavy, not fearful, but grounded, like someone realizing they're standing at the edge of a responsibility they respect. Listen carefully to this next feeling, because something subtle has shifted in how they view distance. Distance no longer feels safe or neutral. It feels temporary. Not in a desperate way, but in a conscious one. Your soulmate understands now that when something is meant to last, you can't keep it suspended forever without it losing integrity. They're not thinking about dramatic gestures. They're thinking about alignment. About whether their actions match what they now know in their heart. That awareness doesn't make them anxious. It makes them careful. Pause right here and breathe, because this is deeply human and rarely spoken out loud. Your soulmate is beginning to feel the difference between knowing what you want and being brave enough to live it. Knowing feels quiet. Living it feels exposed. And exposure requires courage. Not the loud kind, not the performative kind, but the honest kind that risks vulnerability without guarantees. They're standing in that space now, not frozen, but reflective, making sure they don't move forward in a way that damages what matters. Hear this gently, because they're also reviewing their past with new eyes. Not to judge themselves, but to understand patterns. Where they delayed important conversations. Where they chose comfort over clarity. Where they avoided commitment by calling it not the right time. That reflection isn't painful, it's sobering. Sobriety is what replaces fantasy when love becomes real. And sobriety is necessary for anything that's meant to last. Don't skim past this part, because something important is happening inside you too. You may feel less emotionally reactive than you once did. Less pulled into what-if scenarios. More present in your actual life. That's not emotional distance. That's self-trust. You're no longer handing your sense of stability to someone else's timing. You're grounded in yourself. That grounding is what allows commitment to meet you without overwhelming you. Stay right here with this awareness, because your soulmate notices how you carry yourself now. They see that you don't force outcomes. That you don't seek reassurance constantly. That you don't perform vulnerability to feel close. That kind of emotional maturity creates safety. It tells them that if they step forward, they won't be stepping into chaos or pressure. They'll be stepping into steadiness. That matters more than romance ever could. Listen closely now, because the universe is still present in this process, just quieter. You might notice numbers like 444 appearing when you feel especially grounded, or 222 when you remind yourself to trust balance over urgency. These signs aren't instructions. They're confirmations. They're reminding you that nothing is being delayed accidentally. Timing is being respected. Don't move too quickly past this realization, because silence has begun to feel different on both sides. Silence no longer feels like comfort. It feels like something that needs intention behind it. Your soulmate understands that leaving things unspoken forever would be a choice, and not the one they want to make. That doesn't mean they'll speak impulsively. It means they're preparing to speak honestly. Honesty takes time to form. Stay present here, because this stage is about internal alignment becoming external readiness. Your soulmate is asking practical questions now. Can I communicate clearly? Can I stay consistent when life is difficult? Can I hold space without control? These questions aren't about you being enough. They're about whether they can show up fully. That shift is crucial. Commitment built on self-responsibility lasts longer than commitment built on expectation. Hear this carefully, because your boundaries are still shaping everything. You're not demanding clarity. You're not withdrawing to protect yourself. You're staying open while staying whole. That balance is powerful. It allows truth to surface without distortion. Anyone preparing for a serious partnership can feel the difference between someone who is available and someone who is anxious. You are available, not anxious. Don't scroll away, because anticipation might still visit you occasionally. Thoughts like, "Is this really happening?" or "When will something change?" are normal. When those thoughts come, notice how your body feels. If there's calm beneath them, that's intuition. If there's tightness, that's fear. You don't need to fight either. Just don't let fear rush you. The truth doesn't push. It settles. Stay right here with this truth, because it reframes the entire journey. What's forming now isn't driven by excitement or outside influence. It's driven by maturity. Maturity doesn't move fast, but it moves honestly. That's why this process feels steady instead of dramatic. Dramatic connections burn bright and fade. Steady ones build quietly and endure. Listen to this deeply human realization, because it protects your heart. You are not waiting for someone to complete your life. You are already living it fully. That fullness doesn't block commitment. It makes healthy commitment possible. Love that meets you now won't consume you. It will walk beside you. Don't miss this final grounding thought, because it matters more than anything else. Whatever comes next. Whether it's a conversation, a plan, or a clear step forward, will come from readiness, not fear. From truth, not pressure. From alignment, not confusion. And you won't need to brace yourself for it. You'll recognize it by how calm it feels. Stay here until these words settle, because this phase isn't about promises being spoken yet. It's about integrity forming before action. Your soulmate is becoming someone who can hold a lifelong bond without running from responsibility. You are becoming someone who doesn't lose peace while allowing love to approach. When integrity meets integrity, movement happens naturally. Take one slow breath and let this land, because what's unfolding now is not fragile. It's steady. It's real. And it's being built in a way that honors both hearts, without rushing either one. Stay right here with me and don't rush your breath, because what's unfolding now isn't about anticipation anymore, it's about decision energy settling into the body, and that kind of moment always feels quiet but irreversible. When someone reaches this place, they stop circling the truth and start standing inside it. Your soulmate isn't wondering anymore whether this connection matters. That question has already been answered. What they're feeling now is the gravity of choice. The understanding that knowing something in your heart eventually asks you to live in alignment with it. And alignment changes behavior before it ever changes words. Listen closely to this, because something subtle but powerful has shifted in how they experience you. You're no longer just someone they think about emotionally. You're someone they measure their future against. Decisions feel different now. Choices feel heavier. Not burdensome, meaningful. They notice how certain options no longer feel right because they don't fit the life they're beginning to imagine. That's not limitation. That's clarity. When clarity arrives, distractions lose their shine without effort. Pause here and feel into this moment, because this stage is deeply human and rarely visible. Your soulmate is becoming more intentional in small ways that most people wouldn't notice. They're more careful with promises. More aware of time. More conscious of how they show up in relationships and responsibilities. This isn't them pulling away. It's them pulling themselves into integrity. Integrity doesn't announce itself. It reorganizes life quietly. Hear this gently, because you may feel something similar happening inside you as well. You're not restless anymore. You're not scanning for confirmation. You're living your life with a calm sense of self-trust. That doesn't mean you've stopped caring. It means you've stopped abandoning yourself while caring. That inner shift is crucial. Without it, even real commitment can feel destabilizing. With it, commitment feels like partnership instead of pressure. Don't move past this thought too quickly, because your soulmate is now facing the difference between intention and action. Intention feels safe internally. Action feels exposed externally. Action means being seen. It means risking rejection, misunderstanding, or change. And that vulnerability isn't something they're avoiding, it's something they're preparing for. Preparation looks slow from the outside, but internally it's deliberate. They're making sure that when they step forward, they do so with honesty, not impulse. Stay present with this awareness, because your emotional steadiness is playing a bigger role than you realize. You're not trying to manage their process. You're not trying to control outcomes. You're staying grounded in your own life. That groundedness creates safety. It tells them that stepping toward you wouldn't mean stepping into chaos or expectation. It would mean stepping into balance. That feeling matters more than attraction ever could. Listen carefully now, because the universe is still present in this unfolding, but it's speaking in reassurance rather than urgency. You might notice 444 when you feel especially calm in yourself, reminding you that you're supported. You might see 222 when you remind yourself to trust timing instead of forcing clarity. These signs aren't about predicting what will happen next. They're about stabilizing you so whatever happens doesn't knock you off center. Don't skim past this insight, because silence has changed meaning for your soulmate now. Silence used to feel neutral, even comfortable. Now it feels like something that requires intention. They understand that once clarity exists, remaining silent indefinitely becomes a choice. And they're becoming aware that not choosing is still choosing. That awareness doesn't rush them, it focuses them. It makes them want to move in a way that honors the connection instead of diluting it. Stay right here, because this phase is about courage becoming embodied, not spoken. Courage isn't loud declarations. It's the willingness to align actions with truth even when it's uncomfortable. Your soulmate is asking themselves whether they can show up consistently, not just emotionally. Whether they can communicate clearly instead of avoiding difficult conversations. Whether they can choose growth over comfort. Those questions aren't about you being enough. They're about whether they're ready to meet you where you already are. Hear this deeply human truth, because it matters. You are no longer waiting in uncertainty. You are standing in self-respect. That changes everything. You're not holding your breath for someone else's readiness. You're breathing fully in your own life. That doesn't close the door to love. It opens it in a healthy way. Love that meets you now won't consume you. It will complement you. Don't scroll away, because anticipation might still visit you in quiet moments. Thoughts like, is this really happening, or, when will something change, may arise. When they do, notice how your body responds. Calm curiosity is intuition. Tight urgency is fear. You don't need to silence either. Just don't let fear drive the story. Truth doesn't rush. It stabilizes. Stay with this message, because something important is crystallizing. Your soulmate is no longer gathering information. They're integrating it. Integration is when thoughts turn into identity. When realization becomes responsibility. When love stops being something you feel and starts being something you live. That stage is quiet, but it's the most decisive one of all. Listen closely to this grounding realization, because it reframes everything you've experienced so far. This connection isn't moving forward because of outside pressure, timing tricks, or emotional highs. It's moving forward because internal alignment has replaced resistance. Alignment doesn't need constant confirmation. It knows. And when someone knows, their actions eventually follow. Don't miss this, because your boundaries are still doing silent work. You're not demanding clarity. You're not withdrawing to protect yourself. You're open, but you're whole. That wholeness is powerful. It allows commitment to approach without fear. It allows truth to speak without distortion. Anyone preparing for a lifelong bond can feel the difference. Stay right here until these words settle fully, because this stage isn't about promises yet. It's about decision energy becoming irreversible. The kind of decision that doesn't need to be announced immediately because it's already changing behavior. And when behavior changes, words eventually catch up. Take one last slow breath with this message, because what's forming now is not fragile. It's steady. It's intentional. It's rooted in maturity rather than impulse. And when the next step finally shows itself, through conversation, action, or clear direction, you won't feel shocked or overwhelmed. You'll recognize it by how calm it feels, by how natural it feels, by how little it asks you to abandon yourself to receive it. Stay grounded. Stay present. Stay honest with yourself. What's unfolding now doesn't need to hurry, because it's finally aligned. Stay with me until the very last word, because this ending isn't about a promise being spoken out loud, it's about recognition settling so deeply that it no longer needs proof. What has been unfolding between you and your soulmate has reached a point where it doesn't live only in thought or feeling anymore, it lives in awareness. There's a quiet knowing now. Not excitement that fades. Not fear that rushes. Just a calm sense that something real has taken shape. When a journey reaches this stage, the universe doesn't shout. It rests. Take a slow breath here, because you may notice how different you feel compared to the beginning of this story. You're not anxious. You're not scanning the future for reassurance. You're present. Grounded. Living your life without shrinking or holding your breath. That change didn't happen overnight. It happened because you learned how to trust yourself while everything was still undefined. And that self-trust is the real foundation of anything meant to last. Listen closely now, because your soulmate feels this shift too. They sense that you're no longer standing in possibility, you're standing in wholeness. And wholeness changes everything. It removes pressure. It removes games. It removes fear-based urgency. When someone meets a person who is whole, they don't feel chased or cornered. They feel invited. Invited into something stable, respectful, and real. That's why whatever comes next won't feel chaotic. It will feel intentional.
Listen carefully to this final grounding thought because it's important. Even if words haven't been spoken yet, behavior has already shifted. Awareness has already changed priorities. Silence has already gained meaning. And meaning is the what lead to action when the time is right. Things that are real don't disappear because they are quiet. They deepen. Take another breath here because this ending isn't asking you to wait or to expect. It's asking you to live. Live your days honestly. Speak when it feels true. Rest when you need to. Love without urgency. Trust without fear. When something is aligned, you don't need to chase it all. Find its way to you through natural moment. Stay with the final feeling because you are standing in a place of emotional strength now. You can receive clarity without losing peace. You can welcome commitment without losing yourself. You can love without needing to be rescued by love. The strength did not come from certainty. It came from patience, self respect, and growth. Let these words settle slowly because this is where the universe gently steps back. Not because the story is over, but because it's no longer need intervention. You are capable now, grounded now, reading in a way that doesn't need proof. Whatever unfold next conversation, confirmation or continue, calm it will meet you where you are not where you used to be. And that's the quiet blessing at the end of all this. You didn't lose yourself while waiting. You didn't harden your heart while growing. You didn't rush what needed time. You became someone who can hold love without fear. And when love arrives at the version of you it doesn't feel overwhelming. It feels right. Thank you guys. If you enjoy this video, like this video and subscribe my channel and comment how you feel this message, how you feel this story.